Wednesday, July 25th, 4:30 p.m. Roll call, Mike Woods.
Here.
Mark Strobel.
Here.
Andy Peters.
Here.
Dean Culbertson.
Here.
Jack Anderson's here. Was the agenda properly noticed?
Yes.
Any questions on the agenda, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second that.
Mark's given the motion to approve. Andy the second. All in favor to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, we have just the one item on the agenda for new business. This is to consider, discuss, and act on Resolution 30-18. This would possibly rescind portions of Resolution 13-18 for the Savannah Heights Final Plat Phase 1. So, we've gone around the racetrack on this probably more than enough times to be warmed up and ready to talk or decide on this, but I'm just wondering if, I know it's not really public hearing type things, but we might have some questions for you, Tom. Does the board have any questions?
Not
Okay.
this time.
Nobody has any questions. This could go fairly quickly. I just want to make the statement, Tom, that in the future, when we go through these things, the town staff has been working very diligently on putting together our policies, processes, and procedures, right? So the Hall Road that was put into this originally should have been put in. I know that there was some agreements that were made in previous staff members that are no longer here, but make sure that we're partnering with the town and doing what's in to the letter of the word, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure everything's done with these. And if there's any issues, roadblocks that come up, that these things are documented and discussed with not only town staff, but the ones that are pertinent to go up to the town boards for us to at least have awareness or make decisions on that's brought to our attention. I think that's about the best and shortest version I can have of this. Dean, do you need a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Since Dean needs a minute, I'll carry forward.
The one thing that I would like to take the time to comment about is Joel and I and Michael, we spoke with Dave Nielsen from the DOT Access Engineer. There's no issues with allowing truck traffic at that field entrance.
Okay.
He actually said he would prefer that. He says it would help with traffic flow. So, hearing that from, essentially the horse's mouth of the person that deals with access, deals with these traffic impact studies, I don't think it was any better to hear from him. John Dable was on the phone for that conference call yesterday. It took place at 1. I just want everybody to be aware of that.
Just
Okay.
to also kind of comment really quick on kind of where we're at in the process. So the town board adopted 2 resolutions at a prior meeting, 13-18 and then 14-18. The 13-18 was related to the final plat approval, so that was approved. Final plat is ready. The conditions on final plat approval and recording of that final plat was on the condition of the approval of the development agreement, which was resolution 14-18. The development agreement requires a letter of credit to be given to the town for the remaining portions of infrastructure that has yet to be completed. So that's primarily the road. So
Right.
we have curb, gutter, the final
Which
lifts
road?
so all the roads within Savannah Heights. Okay, so that would
Okay.
be part of design, part of Alexandra. Name the other road that's
Ellis
that's
Court, and there's
Ellis
one that
Court.
starts with a T.
So they have water, sewer, stormwater completed. They have road base completed. So all that is required is a letter of credit for curb, gutter, the trails, sidewalks, and then the final 2 lifts of asphalt. Okay. If the letter of credit is received, we can record that development agreement. The development agreement, once recorded, will allow us to record the final plat. Once the final plat is recorded, Dirks DeWitt, they can start to sell lots. Okay. Our code requires, and this is the way the code is written, our code requires that all final improvements need to be completed before a building permit can be issued. The development agreement will allow for building permits to be issued before all final improvements can be completed, because Dirks DeWitt, what they typically do is they will put in a scratch coat, if you will, inch and a half of asphalt on the existing road base for about a year or 2. And so that basically will allow for that road to settle out, and it will also allow for building permits to be issued. After about a year to 2 years, they come back as a condition of that development agreement. They will mill and grind and reclaim that asphalt scratch coat, if you will. They'll install curb gutter, the trail, the sidewalks, and then do the final 2 lifts of asphalt all at the same time. Towering Pines West is a prime example of that process. So Dirk Stewart, what their plan is later this fall, September or October, I believe.
September 10th, we're on their
Okay.
schedule for Fishernet to start with the curb.
Okay.
And then Northeast is on the 15th to do our asphalt and put our binder coat down on Savannah Heights too.
Yep. So that's kind of the thought process, is that they're going to be coming in. Towering Pines will be fully complete at that point. Curb, gutter, trail, sidewalks, final lifts of asphalt. Savannah Heights will get their scratch coat basically applied at that same time. And so that'll be ready, in theory, from what we've allowed in the past to begin issuing building permits. So that's a few weeks out, obviously. So we're probably about 6 weeks out from that road work from being completed. It's going to take a few days before the letter of credit is issued and everything gets recorded. So I think we should be able to alleviate any concerns from the area residents about construction activity and traffic. At that same time, being that they've gotten preliminary approval on Phase 2 for Savannah Heights, they can start working on extending Design Drive over to State Highway 76. As Brian has mentioned, we are working with the DOT and making sure we have all the conditions required to get the access permit granted from the DOT. The only condition that the DOT has is that we have to officially take ownership of that road. That Design Drive has to be fully dedicated to the town. The only way to fully dedicate that road is for that final plat for Phase 2 to be recorded. So they're going to build Design Drive all the way to the edge of the property line, and then they're not going to make that direct connection because they can't have that direct connection without the access permit. The access permit can't be granted until final plat's recorded and it's officially deeded and dedicated to the town. So I just kind of want to walk through those. There's a lot of steps in the process, and Scott and Tom, they know the process and they understand it. Staff is fully aware of the process and understand it. So as long as the town board understands what the process is, that is what will meet the requirements of our town code and will meet the requirements of the statute. Staff is comfortable with that process so long as the town board is comfortable with going through that avenue.
So can I just summarize? As best I can, even with this resolution 1318, they will still need to get their line of credit from bank, right? And then fulfill the developer's agreement in order to issue building permits on Savannah Heights Phase 1. Okay. And you do not have that line of credit today?
I'll find out from you here.
Okay.
I had it set for a different number, and those numbers didn't.
Okay. Is there anything else you need to fulfill within that developer's agreement? And this, I'm asking the town staff.
If it's recorded, we have everything paid for the issue permits.
That's what I'm asking.
So
Beyond this line of credit, is there anything else due to the town within the developer's agreement?
We have one that accept the public improvements that have already been completed out there, which we plan to bring to the town board with the resolution on August 13th.
So they still couldn't issue building permits until the 13th?
Correct. Or until after the 13th.
So we'd have to get the development agreement recorded. Then once that gets recorded, then the final plat can be recorded. You can still sell lots, okay? So you can still sell lots. You can get the process started, but then as of August 14th, once all the preliminary improvements are accepted by the town, then you can issue building permits. So we're still 3 weeks out per se, but it's going to take you about a week before everything can get recorded anyway, much less to sell lots. Because Tom, you're not building, you have a builder building for you, right? So you have to do transfer of ownership and everything like that.
Builders that would like to have holes done with, let's just say everything went through and it was all signed. Letter of credit was there. They would like to build tomorrow already. We have a following of builders, and that's what they wanted, was to get going on it.
Are they building under your name, Tom, as far as the ownership of the lot? You still have to sell the lot. You still have to
We
close and
still
sell the lot.
But if we can't sell a lot to a builder if I tell him you can't have a building permit. They're looking at, well, why would we buy the lot? We both have to coincide together. So at the same time, and maybe there was a different formula, but how did we do Town and Pines West? We got the thing out onto 76, and we were selling lots and going in there.
So a couple things. One, obviously Jack had identified it earlier in the past. I'm not sure that whether it was an administrative decision that was done, but by code, before a development can be issued building permits, all public infrastructure has to be approved and accepted by the town. And the intent of that is to create some control for the town to make sure that the infrastructure that's being installed meets the specifications and plan designs that were approved previously by the town board through the preliminary plat process. So that is how it's written in the code. Now, whether that was enforced that way or administered that way, I can't say. It doesn't sound like that it was. So what we could theoretically do is allow for those things to happen through a development agreement, and that's what we've added under Section 19 of the development agreement, the ability to do that because of the process that Dirk Stewart uses as far as building the roads and not finishing them, okay?
You're correct,
Right.
Joel. That's how, back when Dave was in your position, that's what he would do with the developer's agreement, but it was all written in the developer's agreement, and we went forward with that. Because
So-
there was things that we were still doing with 76 and curb and gutter,
Right.
and right behind us, they were digging basements.
Sure. So again, we do have that provision within the developer's agreement that you've approved under section paragraph 19.1. It does allow for that to occur. But again, the developer's agreement has to be recorded, final plat has to be recorded, then lots can sell, building permits can be issued, so on and so forth. So the conditions are there, you've approved them. Now it's just a matter of not requiring the Hall Road to be constructed in order to meet the other conditions of that agreement.
So what specifically are they asking to have rescinded from 1318?
So if you look in on your agenda packet, essentially, one of the conditions that was a part of Resolution 13-18, a construction road is required to be constructed from Highway 76 to connect with Design Drive. And that was a condition before building permits could be issued. And their desire is to have that removed because, again, they're going to begin Phase 2. They're going to build Design Drive out to 76 as far as they can go without actually creating the direct connection, because the DOT will not permit that until the road is officially dedicated to the town. In order for it to be officially dedicated to the town, the final plat has to be recorded. And we just got through at the last meeting the preliminary plat. So there's steps in the process were not there, so the board had desired a haul road to be constructed to have construction vehicles use that haul road to construct the subdivision and to construct homes within the subdivision.
And if the Hall Road would have been constructed at the time it was supposed to be, we wouldn't be here.
Well, we might be. I guess I have a question. So, Joel, are you saying that the developer's agreement supersedes our ordinances? Because the ordinances that you just stated says that we have to have certain criteria, the curbs, the utilities, et cetera, and the binder coat, the first coat's supposed to be in place. But when that's done, they get a building permit, correct?
Yeah, so
Or
the
are
way,
they gonna get a building permit before that according to the developer's agreement?
yeah, the code reads, so there's two parameters here. So I hate to belabor over this, but this is
I
kind of
know,
how it works. So
I gotta make sure this is clear though.
if the preliminary plat comes in, it gets approved by the town board, and the design, the improvements, specifications and plans get approved. The developer is free to build the subdivision, okay? They don't need a developer's agreement. But before we take that final plat, we have to make sure that it meets all the specifications and plans, so that requires that. In order to record the final plat in advance of the improvements being placed, they could enter into a development agreement with the town. That is solely the discretion of the town to enter into that development
And
agreement.
that's what happened on the other phase, correct?
Correct, okay? So, the code requirements state that they have to do these things or unless by agreement, meaning or unless by agreement with the town board, they can create these exclusions or inclusions as part of that agreement process. So if there's no agreement, they have to do this. If there's an agreement, it can be part of the negotiated negotiation of that agreement.
Best case scenario is August 14th is the date I heard that they would probably get a building permit. Correct?
To my understanding, that's where we're at.
Unless we
And-
held another special meeting.
Well, either that or if something goes amok and they don't get they missed that date for whatever reason, that's on them to.
You
meet
have,
that
you
date.
have the ability to take action on resolution 30-18.
Mhm.
It is currently written in draft form to rescind the requirement that a construction road between 76 and Design Drive be made. You can add to that resolution to rescind the prior action that building permits can be issued in advance of all public improvements being made. That is your prerogative if you would like to do that today.
That could be mine.
The issue I have is that it was a condition to have that Hall Road built for phase one. They, for whatever reason, ignored what was agreed to. They did not build that road. And my belief is because they didn't want to build it because it was an extra cost to them. And this is coming now before us as asking forgiveness for something that they did, blatantly did. And
Mark-
I guess what irritates me is that it's been going on for years, is developers are coming in and asking for forgiveness because it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission. And I want to get away from that.
It's not really the case, though. What happened was, you had the approval for the first phase, and we were gonna step right into the second phase right away. At that same time, we had the issue with the cars. So, you guys didn't ask, but they've asked us to back off on the second phase until things cool off, because we'd be applying for a second phase right with big mess. So that's why we didn't do the second phase right away.
There were some conditions, and there's some truth to what Scott's describing. There were some conditions that the county placed on Dirk DeWitt development, because there was some desire to begin phase two right away. We do have correspondence from Mr. Roach when they were doing their concept planning and their overall preliminary plat, which was approved before the issue on the Lynn property came up, that they were not going to allow further development of the Savannah Heights subdivision until the issue with the Lynn property was resolved. And that was a condition that was placed. That was a condition actually placed even on the final plat approval for Savannah Heights 1.
That's why we're a year behind, basically, because of that.
I have one other comment. If this scratch code is such a good deal, and I understand that it can be, we should get going here and get that into our books, our ordinances, so if it's that good, we ought to be following it consistently. Right now, it's not in there.
Correct.
So we should work on that
Usually
too.
about a road man.
Yeah, see, the old thing is, when Dean was here, if you didn't have the scratch code down, the developer had to plow the roads. Well, we're not guys that plow roads, even if it's hours and everything. If there's a big storm and there's an emergency, you sure need the municipalities and that are set up to plow the roads. So that's why we were some of the first that went back and started putting that scratch codes up, because that's the right way to do it. And let the road settle out, and then you got something decent in the end, and then we come in.
I'm just saying that if it's that good a deal, we ought to get it into our ordinances.
Okay, I need to step through this so that I understand. So there's a preliminary plat approval, and I'm strictly talking about phase one of Savannah Heights. There was preliminary plat approval has been done in the past. Because that's done, they were able to build the infrastructure back there. Build out the lots, get everything prepared, the roads, utilities, so on and so forth. They cannot do anything with selling lots until there's final plat approval. In order to do something before final plat approval, they can get a developer's agreement with the town or the municipality and get that agreement in place, right? Our developer agreement talks about public improvements need to be in place, and there's a haul road that needs to be in, correct, currently?
Correct.
So, and as well as other things, I'm sure. But what we're looking at tonight is removing that haul road. If we remove that haul road, it will not suffice what they need to do in order to get their building permits done. Because they still need to go through public improvements to fulfill that developer's agreement.
Correct.
What are those public improvements that we're waiting on?
So it's really a process issue. It's, as I mentioned earlier, you can make an amendment to the draft resolution. We have received the as-built drawings and have reviewed the as-built drawings for water, sewer, storm sewer, and I believe the road itself, base and everything, correct? Obviously without the asphalt. Those things have all been reviewed by Brian and his staff, and Brian's shaking his head, so correct me if I'm wrong. Everything would be acceptable from Public Works and our town engineer's point of view.
Yep, there's minor things, but it's stuff that we can easily work through. Just go
So
through
the board would just formally need to accept the improvements as they were provided. It's a process issue that's required not only by the development agreement, but also the code. If you would like to do that as part of your motion today, you can do that.
So if we were to put that in the motion, that the town board would be willing to accept the public improvements with recommendation from Public Works that they're as close as they need to be to being fulfilled, minor adjustments can be done after the fact. That would need to be added into our resolution 30-18 for them to be able to get building permits. Otherwise, they're waiting on until August 14th.
Correct.
Okay. So then my question would be for Tom and Scott, what is the hardship that you guys are facing between now and the 14th? What hardship is there?
Every day that goes by, we don't want to lose our builders, so if they end up going some other place or some other subdivision or some other city, town, we want to keep them with us. And we still end up every day, we pay interest on these loans that are sitting out there. We can't, the bank's even starting to ask us questions like, why aren't we moving with the lot sales? Can't. So we have to be able to start going and getting things processed together.
So you've specified two different hardships. One is the interest that you're having to pay on the bank, approximately how much per day?
5% of $2.5 million, whatever that would come per day. I don't have the real calcs in front of me, but I know it's
That's your approximate though, right? You said 2.5 million? So about 125,000. And then that's annual?
right.
Okay, so. Yeah, about $400 a day. Well, I didn't-
We're working on getting out, we got most of our permits and that stuff to get out to 76. And Brian was working with the DOT and we getting all that stuff together. We're ready to move out there.
That's phase two stuff, right?
Right,
So I'm trying to stay on phase one.
right, okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that phase 2 isn't goofing up phase 1 with that haul road.
That's already written into the resolution. So it's the public improvement things that's really our sticking point. And Brian, you're saying that you've reviewed these. Is there any formal documentation that you've signed off on for the developer as far as the public improvements?
Currently, no.
So you and your staff have reviewed water, sewer, storm, the road
They
conditions?
provided comments over to Dable. Michael, I don't know how long was it you sent those comments? Yeah, he sent comments over to Dable in regards to the minor infrastructure, cleaning up this, cleaning up that, whatever might be done out there.
Normally, Jack, what we would do is when public infrastructure is to be accepted, we would ask Brian and our town engineer at Cedar to draft a memorandum, present that to the town board, including a resolution of acceptance. So, because we didn't know we were talking about that today, per se, we didn't have that draft memorandum, but obviously, based on the record today, of today's meetings, our DPW director, our town engineer have accepted at least the improvements from a staff perspective, but it still requires town board action, okay?
Okay. So we'd have to take that action today to allow building permits. I think we've already said that, so. Okay, so it's really a judgment on the town board. And this is my opinion on this. Is there the hardship of the interest that they're paying to the bank, the potential loss of builders, significant enough to warrant us allowing these public improvements to go through as they are today, with the knowledge that our staff has already given their blessing for the most part on them with some minor changes. Of course, we'd also have the other thing that's already written into the resolution, which is not requiring that Hall Road be put in before they start selling lots and issuing building permits. So that Hall Road, it sounds like if you're going to be putting your base layer in on the 15th, is going to be going in really, really soon as well in the next few weeks. You know, the big concern that I think Mark has had and others of us have had is the heavy equipment driving across Glenview and Alexandra Way, trying to get back to that phase 1 so that these builders could start digging basements. They've got to bring their excavators and bulldozers and such back there. We'd prefer that not happen, but that is still a road that is owned by the developer. And you still need to do improvements after the fact. So, Brian, just things that we've mentioned this and talked about it, continue to look out for, no matter what happens here tonight. So, to me, this, as I said, is really about those hardships. Is this developer suffering hardships that we should allow for these public improvements to go through today, knowing that our staff has reviewed them and agreed to them, although not in whole, but for the majority, with some minor changes. Anybody else have comments or questions or a motion?
So you're altering what is stated in resolution 3018?
I haven't put a motion forward, so I haven't altered anything, but
Okay, but
if we
is that your intent?
if we want to allow this builder to go forward, we would be saying that the hardships warrant for the town board tonight to approve the public improvements as they've been reviewed thus far, knowing that there are minor changes that they will follow through with, and that we also have that statement in there about the Hall Road being removed.
I'm in favor with the improvements, but I'm not with the Hall Road.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or a motion? So I guess there is one other hardship that you guys have had to deal with, is having to put a pause on your project while the county and the town, DNR, the state of Wisconsin have dealt with an issue on the other side of the road. So that's an additional one in there. So that was been approximately how long? 12 months? Okay. Okay. So I think you guys are looking for me to make the motion on this, so I'll do that, and we can continue to talk or go forward with a vote if everybody's ready. But I'd make a motion to approve resolution 1318 with the comment in there that we would be taking out the construction road needing to be constructed from Highway 76 to connect with Design Drive. I'd also put in there that an additional statement that's not in what was included in our packet, that we'd allow for those public improvements to be approved by the town board, knowing that our staff has reviewed them. That this is side, it doesn't have to be written into it, but basically the town board is approving the public improvements as well within the developer agreement, and then that's based on the fact that our town staff has reviewed them and accepted them, as well as our engineers have looked at that and reviewed with you. Okay. still like to see a copy of that memorandum and the minor improvements that are needed just for review. So my motion would, just to repeat it, help Wendy out down there.
Jack, if I may, I'll add the actual narrative for you, if you will. I kind of wrote it out. So just for clarifications, it would be a motion to approve resolution 30-18. So the resolution will state, whereas the town board approved resolution 13-18 approving the final plat for Savannah Heights Phase 1, and whereas the following condition is hereby rescinded from resolution 13-18. 1, a construction road is constructed from Highway 76 to connect with Design Drive, and whereas the developer has completed water, sanitary sewer, stormwater sewer, road base improvements to the town's specifications and standards, and whereas the town engineer and Department of Public Works Director have reviewed and recommend acceptance of the public improvements as completed. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Greenville hereby approves resolution 30-18. That would be the formal resolution.
Can I just say that's my motion? Hopefully Wendy can catch that. Very good. So that's my motion. Is there a second or questions or comments?
I'll second your motion, Jack.
Andy's given a second. Is there any other questions or comments before we vote? So just my last comment on this before we do vote is that I'm putting this forward based on the hardships that I know that this developer has had to go through for this phase 1 of Savannah Heights. I do want to reiterate my comments before that we need to make sure that we're following through with what we have in our town code, and what their staff is being directed to do is follow that town code, and they're doing a good job of it to have brought things forward to us of what they have. But with the fact that you guys have had to put this on pause for 12 months, it means you've got thousands of dollars of interest and extra that you've paid on this, $2.5 million principal. I'm sure that you've got some builders that are anxious to get things going, probably even some that want to get things in for a parade for February. That's why I put forward the motion that I have. Any other questions or comments? I'm not hearing any, so let's go forward with our vote on this. I think just a normal vote is fine. So I'm going to ask all in favor to state so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Vote is 3-2, and the motion carries. All right, that is the only thing on the agenda, so that takes us to item number 4, and that's for adjournment of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Mark's given the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. Mike's given the second. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. And it is 5:03.